RC Underground Radio is your go-to podcast for everything RC.
Do you guys realize how much it costs to be friends with this dude?
Whether you're a dedicated racer or just getting started in the hobby, this is your show. Each episode features top-notch guests, industry leaders, and you, the racer. It's a community where listeners can learn, connect, and grow their passion for RC racing. So, grab your transmitter, buckle up, and join us on RC Underground Radio.
Say words.
Here are your hosts, Dave Brinkman and TJ Greer.
All right, everybody. As we always say, welcome back again to another week of RC Underground Radio. I love it when we have a guest, and then we can actually have them come back again, and we can kind of catch up and see what they've been doing since the last time we talked. So first of all, though, I've got to welcome in my great co-host, TJ Greer. TJ, welcome back.
Thank you. Feels good to be back. I'm excited to be on air again.
Awesome. So let's not waste any time. Let's bring this young man on, Aidan Ridgeway. Aidan, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, dude. Anytime.
That's awesome. You know, you set the internet ablaze last time you were on here. Actually, I'll be honest with you. You are one of the most asked for guests because I think people see, from when we talked, that you were kind of getting rolling. Things were going. Now, all of a sudden, you see Aidan Ridgeway here, Aidan Ridgeway there. Everywhere you look, it's Aidan Ridgeway. He's winning races. He's running up front. You're traveling a lot. And so that was one of the reasons. But you also helped us make our blooper reel last year go viral because the best part of that deal was when your sister and your brother came in.
Oh, no. I've told them specifically to not open that door again this time. I told them stay out. So they shouldn't come back, and if they do, it'll be okay.
Well, from a show perspective, that door might need to creep open at the end so we can have them come in because I think people want to see them, as well and just see how they've grown up and, some of the funny things they'll say. But that was probably RCU Radio Classics right there. That was so much fun. So tell us what you've been doing, man. I mean, we see it, but make all the dots connect. Like, what's your life been like RC racing this last year?
I mean, it's been nice. I feel like definitely I've gotten a lot better since it's been like a year since we talked, right? Yeah.
Almost a year and a half. It's so crazy.
So I feel like I've definitely gotten a lot better just driving wise. Like I've gotten a lot more consistent. My speed's gotten there. And I mean, we've traveled definitely a lot more. We made our first trip out to Vegas for Silver State. And that was definitely an experience. And if we get the chance to go back, we are definitely going to hit that one up again.
Awesome.
But
what's next for you? What races you got coming up? What's on your agenda? What are you going to be doing?
Probably, I think we're done with the regional events. So I think the next one is SIC in January. Mm-hmm. That should be the next one, I would think.
All right, so tell us a little bit. SIC, what is that? For people that don't know anything about this form of the sport, give us a little rundown.
So, Race Time Entertainment, which is probably one of the biggest race directors and entertainers of the off-road RC business, at least here in the Southeast. The owner, Dave Lycum, puts on, I think, 4 events a year, one of those being SIC, a.k.a. the Southern Indoor Championship. This is an event in a horse arena in Autauguaville, Alabama. It is the first regional event for the off-road people of the year. It is the first one that you have the opportunity to hit. And it was actually the first one that we went to back in 2022. It was the first event that we hit that was out of town. And, I mean, it's a really good facility. You have your paid pros always show up. Your super fast intermediate guys are always, really wanting to get out of the house and get racing again. And it's always just a great time. And I don't want to miss it because it brings back a lot of memories from the first time that we went. So it's definitely a fun one to hit every year. And so, yeah, that should be the next big one at the start.
So you talk about paid pros and fast intermediate guys. Where do you fall in that group? Where are you at?
So right now, I would say I'm sitting at the top of the fast intermediate guys. I'm nowhere near the pro guys yet. That is a while away. But as for intermediate, I'm definitely like starting to consistently get at the top of the class every single event we go to, which is good. It's good progress because I used to sit B main, like sometimes C main. So now that I'm sitting at the top of the groups most of the time, it's definitely good progress.
That's what I'm talking about, my boy.
That's right. Now, hey, TJ, you realized that maybe at some point you guys were teammates?
Yeah, man. So, well, we were probably teammates. I don't know how long you've been with Tekin, but within the last year, I switched. I'd been with Tekin for about. Well, I'd used their products before I was ever even a team driver with them, but I was with them for about 4.5, maybe 3.5, 4.5 years, maybe. But I'd been using their products for about 7 to 8 years total. But yeah, we were teammates through Tekin, so we got some relativity there.
We've been running for Tekin since I think last year.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't had any issues. We're happy.
Yeah, I'll be honest, man. The Campbell family took care of me well. They've always treated me right. They take care of their team drivers. They're just at the time their focus was always really in the off-road world. And that's no offense to you guys that you guys would do what you do. I've tried to run off-road. I am god awful, man. Just not for me. I've done it twice, both times. Great experience. I'm just not good at off-road, man. I don't know if it's just my depth perception sucks, but maybe I just suck at off-road. I'll just say it.
I've heard some people that like try to run off-road, and that did come from like what I'm guessing you run like carpet oval and like dirt oval and things like that.
I've never ran carpet oval. I did in the beginning just as like a novice kind of thing, but I'm specifically dirt oval. Like that is,
I got you,
that's my niche. Yeah.
Which I know have been some guys that came down to our local tracks that used to run oval, and at the end of the race, like the end of the day, they came up like just were like walking around the pits, and they were like, "This is hard. How do y'all do this?"
Oh,
and they said that their main thing was the depth perception because you're standing all the way over here and the car's all the way over there.
Absolutely.
But once you get it down and like, because there's some tracks where it's hard based on the layout, but for the most part, once you get it down, you get used to how far the car is away and you just know the inputs every single time.
So what about on the driver's stand? Because obviously with off-road, you've got different heights, right? You've got driver stands, you're real low to the ground. It makes that depth perception a little bit harder. You've got some that are really high up. You look at something like Beach RC where you're on top of the track. On the track, you can see, in my opinion, you can see everything.
Yeah.
Then you look at something like Nitro Psycho where it's massive. What's that like for you? What do you prefer?
So it is definitely the best to have a driver's stand where you are like sitting at the top of the track. Mm-hmm. But we went to the RC Pro-Am this year, which is an event in Lake Waccamaw, North Carolina, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of Brent Densford's races from Beach RC, and his driver's stand was kind of like in the middle. It wasn't as like low as some of your other driver stands, but it wasn't as high as like Psycho Nitro Blast and like all these other big events. So it was like there was one part on the track where it's kind of hard to tell, but like again, you get enough practice to where like you just get it down, so you don't really have to worry about it anymore. But it was definitely different compared to like our local track, Loganville. It's actually got two sections. It's got when you first walk up, you're like kind of like medium area, and then you go up another set of steps and you got your like kind of above the track, which is where I like to stand.
Nice. So what classes are you running? What do you prefer? Because I know when I go dirt oval, everybody knows me as an SC mod racer. It's kind of a dying class, but we're trying to make a resurgence of it. What do you prefer, man? If you're going to go race and you're going to show up, you bring in 2 cars, 3 cars. What's your arsenal look like?
So at the regional events that we go to, it depends. Sometimes we'll run 4 classes, which is our E-Buggy, our E-Shruggy, our Nitro Buggy, and our Nitro Truggy. But qualifiers will be spread apart. We might get like 30 minutes to an hour in between, but then come mains, if I made all the A mains, it's like race one car, Marshall, race, Marshall, race. I'm on top of every single race. So it just gets like hard to make sure that everything's ready, because then you don't have time to go back to the pits, and it's hard to make a tire change, and it's hard to make like a setup change if you need it. So
do you ever scratch? You ever feel like, hey, I've got 3 cars out of my 4. 2 of them are probably going to be stellar A-main cars. If I just focus on them, I'm probably going to get that W. You ever feel like that as a racer, where it's ideal for you to think about scratching, or do you ride it out, man? Do you rough ride it?
Sometimes, like, sorry, so let's say I got like, I would say I'm running 3 classes, and 2 of the cars are phenomenal. Sometimes I'll just kind of like, okay, the one car that isn't the best, I'm just going to deal with it, and we're not going to worry about it, and I'll just go out there and do what I can with it, because I know I have 2 winning cars that will and can get me on that podium. So I'll kind of like back up and just take the A main cars and run those, and then the other car I'll just drive it best of my ability.
Yeah,
basically.
So does it help you then, Aidan, by doing that? Because it's still muscle memory. You're getting track time. You're getting in some laps. Maybe you're getting an opportunity to see if the track is changing. Is that what that car's kind of purpose and role is?
That will be kind of like what the purpose is. If the car isn't running the best, I'll kind of just say like, all right, I'm going to try and like, let's say I chose the wrong tire, so it's a little loose. I'll just like, okay, I need to be smooth out of the corner. But if I'm not, just don't worry about it, and just this is used for track time, and now I know what tire not to run for the next car. So it helps in a way, because you know what not to do, and so like it limits your options, because once I know one tire not to use, it's kind of like, okay, this is the one that's probably going to work.
Yeah, so it's great R&D. You're just using it as an R&D session, no pressure. It's all learning, right? It's all it's all data. That's awesome. For people that might be new to this whole thing, because we'll be showing some video and stuff behind you, like that are like, this is amazing, this is cool. Let's just rewind a little bit. So e-buggy, and you talked about buggy, and you talked about truggy. Just give them the real baseline of what those are and what the differences are.
So your e-buggy and your nitro buggy. Your e-buggy is an electric powered car. So you throw your battery in and you just go. Your nitro buggy has your nitro engine, you have your pipe, you have your header, you got your fuel tank, and it runs on like a split nitro and oil mixed fuel. And which is actually a lot more fun class to run, because in these races out here in the off-road world, you'll get 20 minutes to 30 minutes to sometimes an hour if you're like one of those top paid pros in some of these events.
Don't blink.
So it's definitely a lot more fun. Plus it's a lot more realistic, because you have your pit stops that you got to come in and do. Mm-hmm. And there was actually at the RC Pro-Am, they were wanting to do a tire change and caution flags. So you would have to come into the pits at, I think they said it was going to be like a set time limit. You had like 2 minutes to come into the pits and change your tires. Whether you can take the ones you had on and put them back on, but all 4 tires had to be sitting on the rail, and then you could put them back on. And the caution was like every like 5 or 10 minutes or so, they were going to like stop the race and bring the field back together. So the guy that got a good start in the race wasn't just 12 seconds ahead the whole time. Yeah. It brought it back and made it like interesting. But they took away the idea because it was going to be so chaotic in the pits with cars coming up. Someone's tires were going to get knocked down. Someone was going to get hit. It was like, they were like, we're not going to do it. So it didn't come to be, but it would have been interesting to see.
Yeah. I think there's ways they could do that though. And if I'm glad they didn't do it versus just, hey, let's do it. They got the concept. Now they just need to take a little time and really think out the safety of it. I think what they could do is if they throw the yellow And then is everybody going to restart, or was it that you had to come in and then that's where you could gain position by how you did your pit stop? Was that the thought, or was it just to bring the field, truly just to bring the field back together?
I think it was literally just to bring the field back together, but I think if they would have done a caution flag, and during that caution flag you could come into the pits and then change your tires, and then you wouldn't lose your current position, kind of like how NASCAR does it, where you come in after the caution and you don't lose your spot. Well, no, you do actually.
You do.
But
in NASCAR, you do, but a lot of short track racing, you don't.
But short tracks like this, you could just like, okay, you were in this position, you came in for a change of tires, you can go back out in that position because everyone's already back right there. It's like, I mean, you know.
So what I think they could do, and if they're listening, I don't know, maybe this will help, is if they throw the yellow, then and everybody can not, gain position, just bring in half the field, bring them into pit, and then bring in the next lap around, bring in the second half of the field. Now you've split half the chaos, right?
Yeah.
Then it shouldn't really be any more racers coming into the pits than maybe you would typically see. Again, that's kind of like NASCAR. Everybody on the lead lap always gets to come in. Everybody who's a lap or more down comes in the next time around. And that's for the same thing. It's just to keep safety on pit lane. So I respect him for saying, no, let's not do this, because in thinking of the dangers, because that's all the sport needs, right? Is something like that. Somebody gets burned or somebody gets hit or like you said, or just chaos because tires are getting knocked down and so forth. So I give him credit for that. Is there anything different between the two cars, or is it just the electric and the fuel?
So your buggy is just it's a little shorter and a little narrower than your truck. Your truck's a little longer and it's got a wider wheelbase. So in general, the truck is a lot easier to drive because of its longer wheelbase. It's a lot more forgiving. And honestly, tires don't really matter as much on the truck because you can just kind of deal with it because it's so big and it's so easy to drive. You can just fix it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, generally the truck it's just a lot wider and a lot longer. So it's just known as like the easier like car to drive, which it's actually my favorite class to race because of how easy it is. And it's like always just nice to go out there and go fast and not have to worry about rolling over.
It's the same in SC mod, I've told other drivers, pretty notable drivers when we race, I can drive the buggy based stuff. I do it as kind of like a time filler, but like SC mod for me it's more forgiving. I can really drive and finesse them like a big car, as they would say, but it's the same for me. That's the bigger wheelbase. It's just more forgiving.
Which kind of like how you were saying, like the SC mod and the truck are similar, like just in general, how you said the SC mod was dying, the truck class is dying. It used to be one of the biggest classes, at least when the truck first came out, but after that, it's just like steadily been on a decline of like popularity.
And let's talk about that for a minute, both of you guys, since you're both experiencing that. What causes classes to crash like that?
I think it's just a lack of maybe funds, not being able to own more cars or something like that. And then maybe just like because of how little skill it takes, because it's harder to drive a buggy in theory. So it's like, it's just maybe lack of, not saying lack of skill, but like just like not wanting to drive something that's so easy. You want to focus more on the thing that's a lot harder to drive because it'll make you a better driver.
Sure. What's your thoughts, TJ?
Well, for us in Dirt Oval, a lot of times you'll see guys take slashes, turn them into like they're like box stock. They'll turn into like mud boss, and then they start putting power plants in them. They're throwing these big KVs at it, that they really probably shouldn't, and they hop up into a modified class and they've got this big, 4,000 castle, whatever inside there. They're just ripping it, but it's the carnage. I think a lot of people get into the class because it's a good step up because they already have the car for it. The other thing I think is, look at my wall and compare prices on tires. I don't have a tire sponsor by any means. I have GFRP, which I get, our quasi speeds, but if you look at the price difference on a set of tires, you could probably get into buggy tires for what, $50, $60 maybe for a full set of 4. You're looking at SC Mod, you're looking at $75-$80, a pop.
Yeah.
Now someone like me who's going to spend copious amounts of money to go to any big race, and I could care less about the price of tires. I will burn and sand down, and you know what I'm talking about. We will burn and sand down fresh tires to win. Right?
Yep.
And that's the thing. And your average racer can't afford to do that to a $70 pair of tires to come out to a big race to win.
Which, like you were saying, the truggy classes are so much more chaotic because they try to fit the same amount of trucks on the track as a buggy. And if the track's big enough, it works. But on some of these smaller tracks, when they're trying to do that, it's way too much carnage. The first corner is always going to be somebody's going into the fence.
Yep.
Somebody is going over the fence. It doesn't matter. It's going to be way too chaotic. And then, like you were saying with the tire cost, the buggy tires are so much cheaper than the truck tires just because it takes a lot less to produce them.
Yep. I mean, you're paying for less rubber, less plastic. I mean, everything, the less foam for a compound. Me and some of the guys at the track, we always talk in comparison, what makes an SE mod class die, or just a modified or an SE based class. It's just that, man. It's tires. The batteries are more expensive. Your 2-cell, long packs, they are. You can get a shorty 6200 for, $75-$80 maybe, or $100 at retail, and then you're going to turn around and spend another $20 to $40 for a long pack. It just, the price is more expensive for everything for an SE mod or an SE class, so to speak. But
so go ahead, T.
It just takes a lot to try and convince and teach people, especially around here. We probably have, in my opinion, one of the best SE mod groups around because they all respect each other. There's times where some cars are going to come out guns blazing and they're just super fast, but they respect the other racers around. We're just not always seeing that from every angle on all classes. And I'm sure you guys see it too, but I'll tell you now, the best respect comes from off-road guys. They get it.
Which our e-truck class locally gets a full A main on a normal day. It'll get 8 to 10, maybe 12. So there's a good crowd for the e-truck class. But it's just, other than that, you go outside of your local tracks, it's not as big. Mm-hmm. Your nitro truck's bigger because everyone gets it and then it hangs up on their shelf until the national events or the regional events because nobody runs them locally. Right. Nobody does. And it's still it's now a nitro is a lot more than an electric car, but it's still if you have it, bring it out. I love running my nitro truck, dude. That's turning into my favorite class. So,
okay. So my question would be, for a class to decline or to start to go, at some point it was up. We'll start with TJ. How did SC mods start that people bought them and said, yeah, that's the class I'm going to run. And then in time, it is now declining. Was it different then than it is today in terms of what you ran?
Like when I started?
Yeah, or when the class was strong. At some point it was strong, right?
Yeah.
Or decent. Let's say it's decent to strong, somewhere in there.
I'll just start with 2016 or 17. Your entry level to get into dirt oval, I had no clue what I was doing. All I was a weekend Nitro warrior, man. I just thought Nitro was cool, so I had them. We ripped up and down the road. Then my buddies were all like, hey, there's a track in Kokomo. Come turn left and watch this. And I'll be honest, said, turning left is dumb. I said, it's stupid. Who wants to do that? So I go to this track and I show up and I'm watching these guys rip and I'm like, dude, I got to do this. And the simplest way to do it was to get that slash because it was cheap. $250, man. You get a slash, you throw some motor in it, bam, you're on the track. Throw a different body on it. Now you're winning. Then it becomes, well, hey, I don't want to be at the back end of the race every day and wait, so I'm going to throw another class in there. So why not I just build another one for a different class? One's a modified, one's a late model. And then it becomes, well, now I'm good with these. Now I'm going to add something else. I'm going to put one car away. So then your entry-level car becomes your intermediate, which becomes there's no expert level to it. It's now I'm going to go run these small cars faster than I can with these SE cars. And that's, I think, really what happens is they start to branch out and realize that they can run these conversion-based sprints, these conversion-based late models, and they're fast. You're ripping 4-second laps in an SE mod, and we can turn around and do a 3-4 with the sprint, and it's 3 seconds around a track. That's impressive. But I think that's just what it is. It is a very good entry-level class, and people quickly grow out of it, or they lose the phase of it, and then they're on to the next best thing. It's kind of the tidal wave crash. What's going to be next?
Sure. All right. I asked the same question to you, Aidan. At some point, it was kind of at its peak, and then it started to decline. Did it have different components? Did it have a different, setup of tires and things that you bought initially, and then somehow over time it's evolved to be more expensive?
So it is almost the exact same thing that he just said. It came out to the market. It was like, whoa, this is a game changer. It's so easy to drive. I need one of these. Everyone gets them. Class is booming. It is big. It is huge. Everybody's getting them. But then as time went on, it's like, hey, this e-truck's pretty cool. But what about this e-buggy over here? It's a lot smaller, and sometimes it's a lot faster. And it'll make me a better driver. So why don't I go get that, ditch this e-truck thing I have here, or maybe still run it on occasions, but just run the e-buggy. And then steadily people kept doing that, and the class kept going down and down and down, and then now just like hardly anybody runs it anymore.
It's such a shame.
Man. Yeah,
it's such a shame to see, to see that happen and then happen again, and completely different genres of the sport. It's like, it's tough. But I guess, these companies got to come out with the latest and greatest, right? They're in it to make money, and it's nothing wrong with that. Greatest respect to what they do, but I guess just times change.
Which, if you go to Techno RC's website right now and you go look at their e-truggy kit, it is Techno has the way they do it, they have they're on their 2.0 platform. They've had their 2.0, their 2.1, and their 2.2, which is their current e-buggy kit and nitro buggy kit. Their e-truck has had two variants. The 0.3, which is the older truck from it was a while ago. And then you have your 2.0 truck. That's it. The e-buggy has went back to, it's had just an EB48, and it's went all the way back to a 0.2. So the e-truck just hasn't been made as much, but the team has figured out ways to give the truck more steering, to make it turn a lot quicker. They've made changes to the truck as a team and as a group, as a collective, but there's no new kit yet.
Mm-hmm.
So,
any idea when that might come out?
2 weeks. That's what we always say.
Oh, 2 weeks.
We always say 2 weeks. It's a running joke. 2 weeks.
So it seems to be, since we're talking about brands and we're talking about things, you seem to be a well-decorated team driver, right? So to speak. I
would say so, yeah.
Okay. So for your average racer, it's the month of October, and you know what that means.
Silly season. I love it.
Silly season is what we call it. It is absolute madness because all the teams open up the floodgates for the newest, hottest, whatever you are, come and apply and be all that is awesome, right? Yep. Or whatever you want to call a team driver. Have it what you will. Seems to be that you seem to be pretty well decorated. What does it take? Because I know my answer. What does it take to become a team driver, and what steps do you take to become well decorated, such as yourself, well enough to wear all of those brands on your shirt?
So, in my opinion, it mainly comes down to your skill and your personality. Your skill matters because, I think most companies don't want just your average Joe on the team getting these big deals, which I really don't have many big deals myself. The only big deal I have is with Dialed. It's my tire sponsor. I'm factory with them. But other than that,
deal, that's nice.
Yeah, I know, dude. It is so nice. But we took a shot with Gene Hickerson at Dialed, and he shot us a message. He was like, "Hey, I got a tire brand coming out. I'll factory you if you want to run it." We tested out the tires, second faster on the dot. So we were like, yeah, you convinced us. That's it. But it boils down to, I think, just your skill and your personality, because you need a good personality. You don't want somebody on your team that's going to cause drama. You don't want someone starting fights. You don't want any of that. You want people that are going to go to the track, enjoy their time, but then you also want your fast guys too.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like a balance. You don't want too many just good personality guys, but you don't just want to put on, like your paid pros. You want like a balance, because you want recognition from your sportsman drivers all the way to your pro drivers. So
folks, are you looking to gain a 10th on the racetrack, or maybe get a few ladies like Taylor Swift in your pit stall? Well, I'm sorry to say that Carpies can't work miracles in those departments. But here's the good news. The folks at Carpies can definitely help you become the ultimate toy car nerd, just like me. How, you ask? Well, with their custom wraps and killer collection of official RC branded merch. So while they can't promise to shave a 10th off your lap time, they can save you 10% on your next order with promo code RCU10 upon checkout at carpies.com, CARPYS.com. Wrapping winners since 2013.
Papa Willie's Traction Tonic has been curing poor traction since 2016. The name says it all. If you're not popping wheelies, it's not Papa Willie's. Papa Willie's has become known across the United States on dirt oval to off-road, asphalt to concrete, carpet to hardwood, and so many other surfaces. Papa Willie's continues adding to their lineup with tonics for cold and hot weather, loose dirt to high traction, dry dirt, wet dirt, clay and abrasive surfaces, along with anti-drag bearing oil, tire cleaner, tire glue, pit accessories, and swag. You can find the complete Papa Willie's catalog at www.papawillies.net. Prepare for victory with Papa Willie's Traction Tonic.
Be sure to use promo code RCUR for 10% off your next purchase at Papa Willie's.
That kid just gives me goosebumps, man.
He's a solid.
He was like that
fellow,
a year and a half ago. He was like that. Like, can just talk. He's articulate.
He was 13 and a half when he did it.
Yeah. That's why I couldn't wait to get him back on again. And then, you get busy and there's so many people to try to get through this thing. And, just recently I started seeing his stuff again. And I'm like, man, his social media is so clean. And like you said, it's so consistent. And
yeah, man, he's got good quality content. Like it's not crap he's talking about. You know what I mean? It's applicable stuff. He's talking about the brands he's running. He's talking about the products that are in his car. He's talking about what he's doing to win. It's not like it's a short line secret. There's some things obviously drivers won't release. I get it. I'm the same way. I'm not going to tell you everything, but I'll get you a good baseline. Right. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
But no, man, he's 15 years old and he's successful and it's awesome.
Yeah, it is. It is. So.
Thank you for listening to the RC Underground Radio Podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, and tell your fellow racers about the show. Tune in again next week for more RC content.